Hello. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Anchor for making this podcast possible. Without Anchor, this podcast would not exist. Anchor is the greatest host a podcaster could ever hope for. It is super easy to use, it is completely free, and they are constantly upgrading it and making it so much better and so much easier to use. Like, every time I open the app, it feels like. If you have a podcast you want to start, don't wait. Get Anchor right now. You can download it in the App Store or get started at anchor.fm. That's anchor.fm. Hello, and welcome to another Sunday edition of What's on My Mind. The ad break is done, so let's get to it. First, I want to discuss Hinduism with you all. And this podcast is directed towards a more Western audience. So if there are any Hindus or people familiar with Eastern religions, this might sound kind of obvious, but just bear with me. So Hinduism, it's quite fascinating because it's not quite a religion in the sense that Christianity or Islam are. The origins are different, and the uniting factors of Hindus are different. It's just a different type of religion. In this book I have, it's Religions of the World by Spencer J. Palmer and Roger R. Keller. They go through all these different religions, and this is what they said about Hinduism. It is extremely difficult to define Hinduism. Actually, Hindu was the term used by persons living outside India to designate those persons who lived beyond the Indus. It was a geographical designation initially and had virtually nothing to do with religion. A more correct term for the religious traditions practiced by the majority of persons living in India would be called Dharma, meaning the way. Each person has his or her own individual way to follow, and one may be very different from the other in some way. Okay. And then they go on to say it is precisely this diversity that makes Hinduism so difficult to define. There is no one body of belief common to all practitioners of the faith, with the exception that most Hindus believe in reincarnation, the possible ultimate release from the round of rebirths. So, there's a name for this, like exaltation, something like that. But there's no central authority, no universal code, no founder. Probably the closest to a central authority would be the god Brahma, sort of. But because he was the creator of all things, but most Hindus don't generally worship Brahma because his work is seen as finished. He's already created everything, and then he's just kind of withdrawn and isn't really active too much in the world anymore. So, the origins, they talk quite a lot about the origins of Hinduism, the blurry origins, and it has to do somewhat with, like, Aryan legacy, and it's these different, I guess, Aryan people a long, long time ago in the Middle East. They divided from my understanding, Aryans and, like, mixed Aryans, and then one group settled in Iran, and then the other group settled in India. Well, what is now modern-day India. And that's kind of how Hinduism, the religion, kind of evolved. And then I'm not quite sure the introduction of all the gods when that came. Anyways, though, karma, that's another important term. It's related to reincarnation, and karma the literal translation of karma is deeds or actions. In the law of karma, it's a law where essentially a person's good deeds and bad deeds are kind of averaged together, and then it determines the person's next reincarnation. So if you did a lot of good deeds in one of your lives, then you'd be reincarnated as a better person with more social class. Like if you were reincarnated as, I don't know, a poor person and you did really good, you'd be reincarnated as a more rich person. Or if you were a powerful person and you abused your power more often than not, then you would be downgraded to something else. That's kind of the basics of reincarnation. Reincarnation is a continuity among these different Asian religions like Buddhism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Jainism. All of those religions have some sort of reincarnation and karma belief to them, with different specifics, of course, but the general principle is still there. I don't personally believe in reincarnation, but there are, I think, plenty of people that do. Probably, I want to say numbers around 1.52 billion, maybe 1.5 billion or 2 billion, which is quite a lot of people. And also, one last thing, in certain forms of these different Asian religions, it's possible to be reincarnated as an animal or an insect in some cases. So this isn't just limited to humans. I think it's essentially basically all animals, insects, and humans are all candidates for being reincarnated into, I guess. Okay, let's see, there's a couple other things. Yes, pilgrimage. So, bathing in the Ganges River. The reason the Ganges River is so special is it's the sacred river of Shiva, which is the god of marriage, I want to say. And the pilgrimage aspect, it's pretty important, which is why the Ganges River is so crowded, and it's caused some sanitary problems. It's generally dirty where a lot of people come to visit. Anyways, that is... Oh, wait, no. There's the Wheel of Existence. I need to mention that. So the Wheel of Existence, it's different. It has different spokes to the wheel. I think there's 3 different spokes, maybe. There's I think it's salvation, the method, and devotion, something like that. And let's see. I'm not gonna get too into detail on the wheels of devotion, but that's important. Also, the caste system, that's in Hinduism as well. And the reason the caste system exists, in short, is basically because it's an indication of one's karma and how one did in a previous life. So if you were a good person in your previous life, you would be reincarnated to a high place in the caste system. And because you did good things in your previous life. But if you were not good, you would be downgraded maybe even to the untouchable status, or the Dalits. Now, this discrimination by caste is now illegal in India. I think it's been illegal for a little bit now, but that's just kind of some basics on the caste system. Also, Mahatma Gandhi, I think he was a Hindu, and he also didn't really like the caste system discrimination. It's also based on birth. I mean, that's kind of all you need to know about Hinduism. If you want to learn more about Hinduism, you can look it up online, and there's plenty of great articles. Or you can read their holy texts. I want to say there's three. There's what is it? There's I'm trying to think. I don't remember what they're called, but I want to say there's 3 holy texts in India, which unfortunately I don't have access to right now, else I would have read some. Then just one last fun fact, a famous line from one of those scriptures in the West, probably one of the most famous, is, "I am become death, destroyer of worlds." That is a Hindu scripture, and it came from, the story I want to say is, there was this, avatar or something, and he kind of had nefarious intentions, and then he got this power from some other deity, and then after he saw what he could do with it, he said, "I am become death, destroyer of worlds." And it came up more recently in the 1940s when the atomic bomb was tested, and one of the scientists that observed the first atomic bomb explosion, he was thinking of that scripture in relation to the atomic bomb. That's all for today. Thanks for listening. See you next week.